I'm Jason Palmer, one of the hosts of The Intelligence, The Economist's daily current affairs podcast. The Economist's award-winning shows make sense of what matters, from our special series on China's president to our weekly podcasts on business, technology, and American politics. Our journalists provide fair, in-depth reporting on the events shaping the world. Search for Economist Podcasts Plus and sign up to our free 1-month trial.
This episode is brought to you by Carnegie Mellon's Tepper School of Business. Want to advance your career or switch fields? An MBA from Carnegie Mellon's Tepper School of Business can help. Earn your degree from a top-ranked business school with a thought-provoking curriculum, one-on-one leadership coaching, support from experienced career counselors, and full-time, online hybrid, and accelerated MBA formats. Join the intelligent future. Visit cmu.edu/Tepper to learn more.
This is Optimal Finance Daily, episode 2572, Utility on Investment by Tynan of Tynan.com. And I'm your host and personal finance enthusiast, Diana Merriam. Happy New Year. Thanks so much for joining today. I have another article that can help you with your money. So with that, let's get right to it as we optimize your life. Utility on Investment by Tynan of Tynan.com. The thing about investing money is that it's pretty hard for an individual to do better than 5 to 15% per year consistently, depending on your risk tolerance and connections. My best investments have been putting money to work with friends' businesses. 5 to 15% is pretty good, but it's inside the box thinking to stop there. What else can we do with our money? As a disclaimer, I have a good portion of my money in investments that make a return like that. It's good to grow your cash, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, but what if you diversify your portfolio beyond earning a financial return? After all, the point of money is utility. So why aren't we thinking one step further and thinking about how we can earn the most utility on money? I love to find situations where my capital is preserved, grows a little, or is consumed very slowly, but which yields me a lot of utility as a result. For example, I bought my RV for $18,000, plus probably $15,000 over its life in repairs, and maybe another $6,000 in improvements. I sold it last week for $30,000, so I lost $9,000 over the 8 years I owned it. That's not a great investment, especially when you count the parking fees I paid for 4 to 5 years, until you think about the utility. For that small loss, I had a worry-free place to live in San Francisco. I bought myself the ability to have fixed living costs indefinitely, the freedom from having a landlord, and a really cool experience. There are all sorts of professionals who are competing for every last dollar of return on investment. I probably couldn't buy and sell vehicles and expect to make a huge profit because there are plenty of other people doing the same thing, and they're better at it than I am. But no one is competing on the utility side, so my returns can be much higher. If you estimate I saved $1,500 a month in rent, which is probably conservative, I saved $144,000 in rent over 8 years. That means my net profit was around $11,000 per year. That's almost a 30% non-compounding return consistently over 8 years. The RV is a really obvious example because it saved me actual money. Art is a more abstract example. I love buying art. I don't have a ton of art, but every piece I have is something that I would go out of my way to see in art museums. I buy my art very slowly and carefully and would estimate that if I liquidated my small collection patiently, I could probably get twice what I spent. It's hard to put a numeric value on having a little art collection, but to me, it's well worth it even if I could never sell at a profit. I love seeing great art throughout my day. And I like being able to share the stories behind different pieces with my guests. When I first moved to Vegas, I bought a 1995 Mercedes C-Class for $2,500. It idles a little bit rough. The hood has a small wrinkle in it from where it must have been in some fender bender, and the driver's side door doesn't lock automatically with the rest of the doors. But it gets 35 miles a gallon, has a nice wood and leather interior, and is one of the most reliable Mercedes built. The utility I get out of that car is far greater than I could get in pure returns on $2,500. Plus, I sold half of it to my friend, which halved my costs, but maybe only decreased utility by 10 to 20%. I think most people would have bought, financed, or leased a car that costs 10 to 20 grand. Same utility, much higher price. Because all I ever think about, at least for big purchases, is utility on investment, my life is full of these sorts of things. The condo in Vegas, the island, the place in Budapest, watches, home improvement projects, clothing, etc. The end result of all of this is that a large portion of my discretionary spending goes to things that will both make my life cheaper and better in the future. I'll never have to pay rent or a mortgage again if I don't want to, nor would I have to pay for an Airbnb or hotel if I just go to the island in Budapest. I'll never have to buy a watch again. I get mental stimulation every day from looking at my art. I have my own little tea room in my place in Vegas so that I can host people for free. In the same way that debt compounds to make life miserable, investing in utility compounds in the other direction. Every year, I have fewer and fewer mandatory expenses, so I can use more of my money to invest further in utility and/or to invest for a return that can perpetually fund my extremely low living costs. I have a lifestyle that is really exciting and satisfying to me, and it costs me under $1,000 per month, a large portion of which is my private chef, also known as Chipotle. Whenever you're about to spend a lot of money on something, really dig deep and ask yourself what sort of utility you're getting from it. What's the real utility on that leased BMW? Is there a smaller amount of money you could spend to get the same or similar utility? Is the utility you're gaining actually useful to you? Remember that if you save money in one area, you can deploy it somewhere else to get more utility. Don't allow yourself to spend large amounts of money on something that isn't going to bring you a lot of utility. And when you're thinking about investing money, think beyond pure financial returns. How could you invest money that will lower your cost of living for years to come? How could you spend it to permanently make your life better? What resource could you buy that would create experiences for you and your friends? This is one of those concepts that just seems so obvious to me, and yet I see very few people doing it. Most people's expenses increase all the time, as if it's some law of nature that this is how life has to be. But with good capital allocation, you can continually increase your quality of life and lower your costs. That's how you buy freedom, in a way. You just listened to the post titled Utility on Investment by Tynan of Tynan.com. If you use Mint to track your expenses, you've probably heard the news that they're shutting down. But I've got better news, and you've got options. Monarch is the top-rated all-in-one personal finance app. It gives you a comprehensive view of all of your accounts, investments, transactions, cash flow, net worth, and more. Plus, create custom budgets, track progress towards financial goals, and collaborate with your partner. And now listeners of this show will get an extended 30-day free trial when you go to monarchmoney.com/OFD. I moved from Mint to Monarch earlier this year in an effort to better manage finances with my Midwestern gentleman. I really like that we each have separate logins, as it enhances our ability to have full transparency with each other. After trying out Monarch for myself, I understand why it's the top-rated personal finance app. So go to monarchmoney.com/OFD and get an extended 30-day free trial. That's monarchmoney.com/OFD for your extended 30-day free trial.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds.
Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous two-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
The way Tynan describes utility is similar to the way I think about getting the appropriate amount of value out of the money I spend. The tricky thing about determining value or utility is that often it's impossible to know this for sure before you make a purchase. And this can create analysis paralysis for me personally. It's really easy to say in retrospect that something was a smart purchase. For example, in this article, Tynan's RV worked out really well. But I can think of many examples in my own life where a purchase looked really good on paper, and then my assumptions ultimately didn't line up with reality. So for instance, not too long ago, I bought a fabric shaver to try and spruce up some older clothing rather than replace that clothing. I spent a lot of time researching and reading reviews. I made my purchase and felt pretty confident about it. But ultimately, this solution didn't work well. This isn't to say that we shouldn't be thoughtful about how we spend our hard-earned money, just that we should acknowledge that there is uncertainty involved and manage our expectations accordingly. But that concludes another installment of Optimal Finance Daily. Thanks as always for joining me. Have a great rest of your day. Happy New Year. And I'll see you again tomorrow where your optimal life awaits.